Good morning. This is Don V with Truth Be Told, and we have a couple more stories the Daily Caller has reported on. So, without ado, let's go ahead and move right to. Well, as the story goes, it says Biden administration unveils strategy to combat domestic terrorism, labels white supremacy as a lethal threat. Biden administration announced a new national strategy for countering domestic terrorism that focuses in part on white supremacy, declared to be a lethal threat Tuesday. The initiative follows a review directed by Biden to his national security team on how the government addresses domestic terrorism. The national strategy for counter domestic terrorism aims to bolster the government's response to such incidents, according to a White House press release. The review was rooted in an expert assessment of domestic terrorism threat provided by the intelligence and law enforcement communities, the White House noted. An unclassified summary of that assessment was released in March so the public could see the key findings. It found that two of the most lethal elements of today's domestic terrorism threat are: one, racially and ethnically motivated violent extremists who advocate for superiority of the white race, and two, anti-government or anti-authority violent extremists such as militia violent extremists. Biden, in a statement regarding news of the initiative, called domestic terrorism a stain on the soul of America. He referred to the plan as a comprehensive approach to protecting America and pushed his common idea of unity. This is a project that should unite all Americans. Together, we must affirm that domestic terrorism has no place in our society, Biden said. We must work to root out the hatreds that can too often drive violence, and we must recommit to defending and protecting our basic freedoms, which belong to all Americans in equal measure, and which are not only the foundation of our democracy. Last time I read the Constitution, it said we were a constitutional republic. Hey, say a lie big enough times, and maybe somebody will start to believe it. They are enduring advantage in the world. Amid developing ways to counter domestic terrorism, the Biden admin embraced the protection of civil rights and civil liberties as a national security imperative. The White House wrote Biden highlighted his protection in his statement as well. The initiative has 4 pillars, with the first aiming to understand and share information related to domestic terrorism. In part, the government plans to tackle this pillar by enhancing domestic terrorism analysis and improving information sharing through various law enforcement groups. Second pillar focuses on preventing future recruitment and mobilization to violence. To do so, the initiative looks to address online recruitment and has revamped support to community partners who can help to prevent individuals from ever reaching the point of committing terrorist violence. Pillar 3 offers plans on disrupting and discourage domestic terrorism, and Pillar 4 explains ways to confront long-term contributors to domestic terrorism. The last pillar notes that the government will look towards ensuring that law enforcement doesn't operate with bias and will counter polarization due to disinformation, misinformation, and conspiracy theories. Interesting. First one, it says Chuck Schumer apologized for calling disabled children retarded. Interesting. Democratic Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer apologized Monday for calling disabled children retarded during a recent podcast. When I first was an assemblyman, they wanted to build a congregate living place for retarded children. The whole neighborhood was against it, Schumer said on the podcast. These are harmless kids. They just needed some help. We got it done. Took a while. Democrat was referring to his time in the New York legislature from 75 to 80, Politico reported. The word retarded has been used for many years to describe someone who is intellectually slow or has Down syndrome, and is considered by many to be a hurtful and offensive term. Former Barack Obama signed a 2010 law that swapped the phrase mentally retarded for the phrase intellectual disability in U.S. federal law. Those who use the R word often do so with little regard for the pain it causes people with intellectual disabilities and the exclusion it perpetuates in our society. A spokesman for the Senate Majority Leader said Monday afternoon that Schumer made a mistake when he used the inappropriate and outdated word. For decades, Senator Schumer has been an ardent champion for enlightened policy and full funding for services for people with intellectual and development disabilities, a spokesman said in a statement to the Daily Caller News Foundation. He used an inappropriate and outdated word in his description of an effort he supported that was led by the AHRC to build a group home in Brooklyn. District decades ago to provide housing and services to children with developmental disabilities, the spokesman continued. He's sincerely sorry for his use of the outdated and hurtful language. The AHRC formerly stood for the Association for the Help of Retarded Children. The organization says on its website that no longer uses the words that the letters AHRC once represented. Interesting. Well, I guess that's all we got for this video. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. This is Don V with Truth Be Told, broadcasting out of beautiful Arizona, and we are out of here.